Ah, good old Dark Souls 2, the game of many genres. Action adventure, role playing, walking sim, more walking sim. Let's add one more to that list, mail delivery. Last time we trekked through the Kingdom of Lordran as we tried to answer the question, who in their right mind would willingly play with garbage like the Mail Breaker? Now our paper route takes us through the Kingdom of Drangleic, and oh boy is it a long, long ride. So without further ado, let's ask, can you beat Dark Souls 2 with just the Mailbreaker? Before we get into the run, I want to apologize for taking so long. Had to do quite a bit of grass touching this year. Shameful, I know. At least the stream was popping off. Here's a brief recap of the shenanigans over there. You okay, bud? The frick did he just do? Wow, this dude just did a breakdance in the corner of the screen, I swear. There we go. So cheesy, dude. Boom. What a great enemy, dude. But I'm glad to be back. Okay, well maybe not for Dark Souls 2, but in terms of making videos. Alright, let's get right into it. After waking up and things betwixt, I break right immediately and collect this rusted coin for later. Then I go to the hags and create my character. Of course, I stick with the name Mailman. As for class, I decided to go with Bandit this time since the total amount of wasted stats, aka attunement, intelligence, and faith, is minimized. That's right, I actually did some ratting this time, would you look at that? The starting gift is basically irrelevant, so I foreshadow the rest of the run by choosing healing wares. Get used to this icon in particular. You'll be seeing it a lot. After character creation, I unequip my weapons and head to Majula. While heading there, let me talk a bit about this run. The rules are very similar to Dark Souls 1 with a few modifications. All direct damage must come from the Mailbreaker, or until it is available, bare fists. No summons, no shields, no spells, no temporary buffs, so no bright bugs, no resins, things like that. And no bonfire ascetics, since they can be easily exploited to generate virtually unlimited souls at certain parts of the game. Another thing worth mentioning is that I really struggled whether to exclude life gems, since those are an enormous amount of potential healing. Then I remembered, this is Dark Souls 2, and the Dark Chasm exists, and Ludden's Allen exists. So yeah, life gems are allowed, at least for now. I'm not going to suffer through the heat death of the universe while drinking flasks in this game, sorry. The goal of the run is to use this rule set to kill all bosses, which in this game amounts to, wait, 41? Yikes, that's almost twice as many as before. So for the sake of time, the pace is going to be a little quicker in this video, so hopefully it doesn't come off like I'm on Ritalin or something. Upon entering Majula, I collect one of the most useless items in the game, the Estus Flask. Yeah, Dark Souls 2 is a bit weird like that. Then I enter the nearby tunnel, heading to the Forest of Fallen Giants and lighting the first bonfire. The goal is to get to the courtyard right before the Pursuer boss room, so it's time to go full pugilism and fist fight to the second bonfire. Upon making it to the second bonfire, head downstairs and take a long walk to the courtyard. The shortcut is pretty hard to open without a firebomb, so I opted not to do it. And hey, the increased walking sets the mood perfectly for the rest of the game. Once at the courtyard, head right and climb this ladder. Make your way across the bridge to the building with a chest inside. Do not open the chest yet though. In line with that theme of annoyance, in DS2 they took away your iframes opening chests. Cool, thanks guys, that adds so much to the game. So aggro the hollows and jump out the window so they follow you. Then climb the ladder again, and voila, we have the Mailbreaker. A lot less annoying to get this time. There's a few changes with this weapon in Dark Souls 2. First, although the requirements are the same as before, it requires 5 dexterity and 12 strength. Wait, that's not right. 5 strength and 12 dex. Alright, yeah, sorry about that guys. Anyways, the scaling is improved to CC. You might think the scalings are equal then, but actually the strength one is stronger. Without going too much into detail, there are hidden numbers behind the letter grades that determine precisely how strong the scaling is. After upgrades, the strength factor is 40, while the dex factor is just 25. Man, I bet those misleading letter grades have fooled a ton of people. Also, they fixed the kick problem, so we're not swashbuckling anymore. Finally, the critical modifier is still great, so even though backstabs are nerfed in general in this game, they are ludicrously effective if the opportunity arises. Oh yeah, the idea of serving up some Alon Night shish kebabs is making my mail breaker go up. Now back to the run. After heading down the hallway and the next door elevator, it's time for the first boss, the last giant. Well, the apple does not fall far from the tree, huh? Literally just stand behind him again, he can't do anything. Seriously, they couldn't come up with anything better for a first boss after a whole game? I mean, he can sometimes hit you once in a blue moon, but if you alternate which foot to hide behind, then it's mostly a moot point. He goes down rather easily. Using the souls from him, it's time to invest in some items. I go to the merchant Melentia and purchase the following items: the Pharos Lockstone, Leningrass Blacksmith Key, 1 Traveling Merchant Hat, 9 Life Gems, and 1 Human Effigy. Doing so will accrue just over 10,000 souls worth of sales, so exhausting our dialogue rewards us with the covetous Silver Serpent Ring +1. This version forces all enemies, including bosses, to drop 20% more souls. That means a ton of levels without grinding. Now's a good time to mention that I'm aware of the equip swap cheese in both this game and Dark Souls 3 that allows you to quick swap the soul increasing items right as bosses die to still get the boosts. I decided not to do that here, mostly because that just makes the footage kinda messy, seeing a menu pop up right after every boss. Ugh. After shopping, I go back to the courtyard and enter the Ballista room. Using the Pharos Lockstone here opens a room that contains the Chloranthy ring, providing a nice boost to stamina recovery that will be very relevant later. Then I head back to Majula and open Leningrass Workshop, purchasing enough Titanite shards to level up the Mailbreaker to +2. Now it's time for the Pursuer. For swag points, I fight him in his early form on top of the courtyard. Man, I feel right at home with that damage. The more things change, the more they stay the same, right? Luckily, Pursuers are easy enemies, with their flying swing attack and overhead slam in particular being easy to bait and punish. After a few minutes of running around and forcing these two moves repeatedly, he goes down. He drops the Ring of Blades, providing a very nice damage boost at the beginning of the run. Now to acquire my armor set for 90% of the game. Yes, I'm serious. Head over to Mouflin and purchase 15,000 souls worth of random goods at his shop. Then I rested at the bonfire so he's in his pimp position. Once he's in place, I make a physical connection between the Mailbreaker and his skull, alleviating him from his earthly burdens. He drops the Seldora set, which in total increases the amount of souls obtained by 22.5%. This armor set is amazing. And armor defensively is quite lackluster in this game, so passive effects like this reign supreme. After acquiring the armor, I take the right path to head over to Hyde's Tower of Flame, grabbing the first bonfire and hitting the switch to make the Dragon Rider platform raise. Then I can run past these enemies due to their slow attack animations and arrive at the boss arena. Dragon Rider is a boss where all you need to do is, you guessed it, I'm not even gonna bother saying more. He dies shockingly fast. After talking to Lycia upstairs, I progress to No Man's Wharf. I extensively loot the area for several upgrade materials and the Fragrant Branch of Yore, and I unlock the shortcut, but I do not fight Flexel Sentry just yet. There's a specific area I need to go to first that will greatly enhance my fighting abilities early on. Where exactly? Brightstone Cove, Seldora. Yeah, that's pretty far from here, so strap in. Use the Fragrant Branch to free Rosabeth and progress through the Shaded Woods. Stay left on the Spooky Ghost section to get through very easily. Go down this hole in the ground to talk to Darkmaster Grandel for the first time, which we will need for a boss later. Then get back up and walk through the rest of the Shaded Woods to arrive at Scorpioness Nachka. This is a weird boss. The goal is either to bait out a tail stab from the front, forcing her into a long and vulnerable animation, or get behind her and take free pot shots. When she goes underground, it's possible to avoid damage, but you can just heal through it. The only truly dangerous attacks from her are her spells, which are minimized in frequency by staying close. After a few minutes of running around the arena and pecking at her, she goes down. Move on to the Doors of Pharos, but immediately take the staircase out of the area. The Royal Rat Authority boss is here, but if you've played DS2 before, you already know why it's a bad idea to fight that now. In fact, that boss will be one of the last I fight in the base game. Yes, it's that bad. Anyways, we make it to Brightstone Cove, Seldora. The last obstacle in the way is the Congregation boss fight, and it's pretty generous to call it that. Just backstab all the necromancers. I really can't say much more beyond that. The boss design in base game DS2 sure is something. Now, after reaching the bonfire, it's time to address the reason I came all this way. I equip the Traveler's Merchant Hat, which gives item discovery, and I use the Rusted Coin for even more item discovery. Then I head to the room before the Congregation and farm the spiders for drops. This may seem really strange. What on earth could these spiders have that warrants all this setup? Well... That's right, we're moving out of London and into Italy. Time to start the mass boss rush. Since I'm already here, I decided to tackle Frezia first. So I head downstairs, cross the spike section, and navigate the spider gauntlet to get to her. This fight is not too challenging, as long as you focus on killing the initial spider minions. Once those are gone, then you only need to bait out an attack from one side, then quickly rush the other side and get free hits in. The laser attack, that totally doesn't fit into this boss's design, but whatever, is the best attack for this. Occasionally, more spiders will spawn, but those are easy to manage as well. After circling her like a vulture for a few minutes, I swoop in for the kill. With that, the first primal bonfire is lit. Using the souls from Frezia, I get to 18 dexterity, so I can finally live out my Ezio fanfiction. After dealing with all the garbage in Dark Souls 1, I gotta admit, the feeling of getting 2 weapons in Dark Souls 2 was exhilarating. It was kinda like that moment in Cage 2 where you get 2 Keyblades. Yeah, I just compared the Mailbreaker to that. I'm so sorry. The next boss on the hit list is the old Dragon Slayer. Due to the way aggro works in this game, and by that I mean every enemy establishes a blood feud with you on sight that never goes away, I need to kill all the enemies up to the boss. Fun. The dragon at the top is ironically more annoying than the same dragon later on, since there is 0 space to work with. Extra fun. After role-playing as a marshmallow at a campfire and poking the ankles for long enough, it dies. The way to the boss is open. Old Dragon Slayer has a very familiar moveset, with a forward thrust, some slash attacks, and a butt slam, but I can't put my finger on it. So how about I put my Mailbreakers through his body instead? For the same reason Phase 2 of this fight was so easy before, the 1v1 here is just not a problem whatsoever. His recovery times are too slow to be a serious threat. He goes down. He drops the old Leo ring, similar to the ring from Dark Souls 1. It's nerfed here to just 12.5% extra counter damage, but it's still solid. Speaking of rings, these 4 are the ones to rock late into the game, with just one other ring coming way later. The added souls, stamina recovery, flat damage, and counter damage will hard carry this run. With Hyde's Tower of Flame complete, it's time to do No Man's Wharf. After crossing the shortcut from earlier and boarding the boat, I enter the Flexel Sentry boss room. The basic idea is that the water continuously rises to the point where you have reduced speed and all your rolls become fat rolls, making the fight a lot harder. So the goal is to keep the pressure on him and end the fight before the water level looks like the Netherlands in a few decades. Each half of the boss has different attacks, but whether it's the sword or mace half, there are plenty of openings to exploit by simply outranging and waiting until the animation is done. The dual Mailbreakers deal more than enough damage to beat the DPS check. Time for Lost Bastille, the most infamous area in the game. Well, besides that one. And that one. First, I travel to the Pursuer boss arena and enter through there. This chest has a fragrant branch of yore that will be relevant soon. I also decide to fight the Pursuer mini-boss here for some free souls. Then I open the path to Macduff's workshop, use the branch to free this NPC, then fight my way to the Ruined Sentinel's boss. This fight is not that hard if you know what to do. Upon entering the boss area, you are on a raised platform with 1 sentinel. Whatever you do, do not fall off until this sentinel is dead. The game is programmed so the other 2 sentinels stay back and watch while you're up there and that sentinel is alive. So take the 1v1 opportunity and kill the sentinel, whose moveset is fairly easy to dodge. Then wait for the second sentinel to come up and get as much damage on it as possible. When the third sentinel comes up too, that is the time to get off the platform. Now we've reduced the 3v1 to a 2v1 with one of the sentinels at 60% HP. Much better. The rest of the fight is just spacing the 2 sentinels, waiting for both to do an attack, so that you can punish the weaker sentinel while they are recovering. Once it's dead, the final 1v1 fight is laughably easy. After reaching the bonfire, I descend the ladder to fight the next optional pursuer. Then I use a Pharaoh's Lockstone to unlock the path to Belfry Luna and to access the Belfry Gargoyles fight. Ugh. This is a Temu version of the DS1 Gargs, but with 5 and more poise. Nice job, From Software. This fight is about as fun as getting shat on by a flock of seagulls at the beach. Not that I speak from experience or anything. Luckily their spawns are staggered, so the key is to burn one down before another takes its place. All I gotta say is, thank the Lord for life gems. They go down. Back at the bonfire, I progress as usual up the Bastille, crossing the bridge and heading up to the higher level of Sinner's Rise. After taking the elevator down, and killing the Flexel Sentry with Dark Souls' most powerful weapon, Geometry, we arrive at the Lost Sinners boss arena. Lost Sinner is a pretty good fight. Some of the animations are janky, but basically all the attacks are dodgeable. The lights allow for locking on, which honestly is not required, but it helps to keep her centered on the screen and also ensures that the video does not get pixelated to Kingdom Come. Just roll past her attacks to land behind her, then punish. She is super vulnerable to the Mailman's arsenal, taking a ton of thrust damage. She pretty quickly gets turned to Swiss cheese. With that, we get another fragrant branch and light the second primal bonfire. The next goal is the Black Gulch, deep underneath Majula. That means it's time to descend the well. I unequip all my armor and grab the Silver Cat ring from Shalquar. This allows me to descend without my atoms fusing to the ground. Then I navigate the Grave of Saints as usual, coming up to the Royal Rat Vanguard boss. This is basically the ostracized grandpa version of Deacons of the Deep. Just clear a path through the rats until you find the real Mohawk rat and kill it. Yeah, that's literally it. Look, we're still in the early days of these games, this is what passes difficulty. After that, we proceed to the Gutter, aka Poor Man's Blighttown. There's nothing of note here, just progress your way as usual until you get to the Black Gulch. There's a few important things to do here. First, I use a fragrant branch to unlock a hidden bonfire at the end of the gulch, praying that Gully doesn't turn me into an abyssal pancake. Then I jump down the hidden path to fight the 2 giants. Besides questioning how giants that definitively came from the sea got so far down here, I begin to realize the true pain of this run. No joke, fighting these guys was by far the hardest part up to this point. They're resistant to thrust damage, and I'm weak to getting splattered across the ground, so this made for a pretty bad combo. It was so rough I had to weave in and out of the wall opening like an actual rodent. After several minutes of penetrating their defenses from hole to hole, the giants go down and I loot the Forgotten Key. With it, I can open the door above the arena to visit Grandel, the second of 3 locations that will be needed later. Then I ride the cage up to fight the actual boss, the Rotten. Take a wild guess who was actually harder, this guy or the 2 giants that were resistant to all my damage and have more health? I wonder. Check this out. All you gotta do is dodge his slow attacks, hit him once, and repeat. Here's the tried and true guiding principle in this game. The trash mobs are the real bosses. Anyways, the 3rd primal bonfire is now lit. The next major area is... Well, it's a bit of a trek first. I used the secret path in Majula to enter Huntsman's Copse, which for some reason I thought was Huntsman's corpse for the longest time. The first stop is the Colosseum, which contains the amazing Executioner's Chariot boss. If you played Devil May Cry 3 and fought Geryon, well, this is nothing like that. This fight blows. The goal is to kill all the necromancers on the path to stop the respawning skeletons. All while this horse goes in circles harder than arguments on the internet. After all the necromancers are dead, hit this lever and the chariot crashes, starting the real fight. And it's an absolute joke. Most attacks are avoided by side dodges. I do get hit by the hind legs so much I feel like I'm fighting the Canadian from Elden Ring again, but it's still laughably easy. The next fight is the Skeleton Lords across the ravine. After making the uneventful journey there, the fight begins. The idea is that each lord summons a particular horde of skeletons when killed. I unintentionally help myself by leaving the staff lord alive, whose fireballs actually cleave down the skeletons a bit. Well, that's lucky. Besides that, fighting hordes of enemies with the Mailbreaker is misery. So of course I got thrashed by these guys whenever I would try to pick one off. Still, they were never able to hit stun me long enough to kill me, so I was able to whittle down the crowd. After killing the last lord and his lackeys, the fight is over. After proceeding through Harvest Valley, which is virtually unchanged from a normal playthrough, I make it to the next boss, Covetous Demon. Let me put it this way. Back in the day when I was first fighting this guy, I got hit by the grab that removes all of your equipment when he was at 70% health. So I fought him naked and still killed him on the first try. So yeah, I think you know how it went this time. After him, it's time for Earthen Peak. Again, the route is basically standard, making sure to burn the windmill next to the middle bonfire. Then it's time to fight Mytha. Besides the janky hitbox on the explosion, this is your standard dodge the telegraphed attack and hit the boss type of fight. It is harder than the last like 5 bosses, but that isn't saying much. What else? Oh yeah, anyone else think it's weird that the one Medusa enemy does not have a petrification attack in the one game where petrification is a thing? Huh. Alright, it's time for that area. Good old Iron Keep. This area is plagued by strong NPC invaders, annoying enemies, and long runbacks, the unholy trinity of DS2. However, at the very least, the Elan Knights are easily backstabbable, so I get to live out my shish kebab fantasies after all. Upon entering the courtyard, every enemy gets their tights in a bunch and rushes me harder than Pokemon card scalpers on release day. As annoying as it is, the key is to take it slow and not rush to the boss room. After mowing down so many Elan Knights it makes my head spin, eventually I make it to the Smelter Demon boss. Wow, a memorable and somewhat challenging encounter. That's a nice change of pace. The fight consists of dodging the sword attacks, paying attention to openings so they aren't false, and staying behind him. The main gimmick is that occasionally Smelter will charge up his fiery core, causing anyone near him to take constant light fire damage. I have just the tool for that. Despite his heavy armor as well, he's not that resistant to thrust damage either. The days of 31 damage are long behind us. After a while, the Smelter Demon goes down. Upon killing him, I reload the area to fight the Pursuer in his boss room. This drops the Ring of Blades +1, a very nice upgrade over the original ring. The rest of the area is as fun as it usually is. I don't need to talk about it. If you've played this game, you're traumatized enough by this part. Alright, it's time for the first duo boss in the game. Old Iron King and that freaking hole in the ground! Seriously, whoever put that there knew exactly what they were doing. In all fairness, the boss itself is not too bad besides that. The King's attacks are all telegraphed and slow, providing ample opportunities for damage. The sweeping flame attack is a little weird to dodge through, but it is possible. Rinse and repeat from there. Mailman 1, cruelly placed hole in the ground, 0. And with that, the fourth and final primal bonfire is lit. After upgrading the Mailbreakers to +6, I head back to the Shaded Woods and find my way to the mountainside chest in the shaded area to get the Claranthia Ring +1. A good boost to stamina regen which greatly helps power stancing builds. Then I open the left path to Drangleic Castle. Most of this area plays out the same as usual, so for the sake of time, and my sanity, I won't go into detail except that I fell through the ground path next to the first bonfire to visit Grandel for the 3rd time. This unlocks the Dark Chasm of Old dungeons, but I will save those for the endgame, since, spoiler alert, it's not going to be fun. After walking through the castle, eventually I arrive at the Dragon Rider duo boss fight. If you remember the original Dragon Rider fight, it was ridiculously easy. So let's see what changed. Adding one more boss versus 2 Mailbreakers instead of 1, way more weapon upgrades, more health, more rings. Yeah, this fight is still a joke. Kill the first Dragon Rider, then kill the second one which weirdly has very little HP. And that's it. After yet another section that's basically identical to a normal run, we get to the final boss of this area, Looking Glass Knight. This is another great boss, but a bit on the easy side. His sword swings are all telegraphed and slow, with a lightning attack in particular taking an entire lunar cycle to land. The gimmick with this fight is also what makes it so easy. About halfway through he slams his shield and summons a minion after a long delay. However, he can be attacked for the entirety of this animation, albeit with increased resistance. This means it is 100% possible to straight up kill him before the minion does anything. Well, that's a bit anticlimactic. Goody, it's time for the Shrine of Amana, that one area everyone likes. To be honest, that infamy mostly comes from the early days of the game's release, but post-nerf it's not that bad. The goal is to slowly and methodically kill every enemy on the path, hiding melee enemies behind walls and other collisions so the casters cannot hit you. Then, once they are all dead, rush the casters and kill them. Rinse and repeat. It's slow for sure, and not particularly well designed, but it's not awful unlike some other zones. You can also skip the final gauntlet of enemies by running to the left, which avoids a ton of headaches. After 13 minutes of trekking through the swamp, we arrive at the boss, Demon of Song. And no, I'm not gonna say it. This fight is so easy, I'm not gonna talk about it besides barely outrange the attacks and hit the face. I seriously wonder what they were thinking with some of the bosses in this game. Undead Crypt is the next location, and it is similar to Drangleic Castle in that the route is identical to a normal run. After making it to the end, we reach Velstadt. This is the first boss I can say is genuinely hard, and not in the unfair, unfun, terribly designed kind of way. Trust me, we'll get to that. Velstadt has the usual sweeping attacks for maces, but also a backstep thrusting attack, and the infamous heal punish where he runs right at you. The key is to dodge around him so most of his attacks whiff, abusing his massive recovery time to pour in the damage. About a third of the way through the fight, he begins to buff himself where he augments his damage done and lowers his damage taken. You can get a ton of free hits on him during this. He's also supposed to get a new Hex attack, but I never saw it this playthrough, so that was lucky. After a classic Souls experience dodging around his attacks constantly, he goes down. After that, we gain access to Vendrick's room and the King's Ring, which unlocks various gates in the world. Time for the Collectathon. Heading back to Shaded Woods, I go through the middle section, running past the Ogre and using the King's Ring to unlock the gate. This leads to Aldea's Keep, an area that is a literal hallway. After traversing the Orochimaru-esque experimentation labs, I make it to the final prisoner, the Guardian Dragon boss. And, this is awkward, but we've literally already fought this boss earlier, and it's the exact same. Actually easier with a bigger arena. So yeah, moving on. Then we reach the prettiest zone in the game, Dragon Eyrie. This whole area can be skipped by taking the zipline directly across, but I decided to clear it out for some extra materials and souls. After the Eyrie is the Dragon Shrine. At first I try to run past all the enemies again, forgetting that the dragon cultists up here hate cuckery and will attack anyone that flees from a fight. So I get whooped. Next time though, I kill the first two knights and skip the third. After him is the Ancient Dragon, who gives us the Ashen Mist Heart, which allows entrance into several memories throughout the game. Unfortunately for him though, he's also a boss, so he's on my hit list. This fight is, well, let me just show you. Yep, another ankle poking fight. Also, he has so much HP that I needed to use a repair powder to make sure my mail breakers didn't turn into mail brokens. Yikes. After 7 minutes, he dies and drops the second soul of a giant. The other 3 souls are pretty easy to get. The Memory of Amar and Memory of Oro are just sprints to the end, where each contains a soul of a giant. The last one, the Memory of Jay, contains a boss, the Giant Lord. Oh my goodness, another fight where you just need to attack the ankles over and over? 3 in a row, sick! Just stay behind him, preferably between the legs, and 90% of his attacks miss. With his death, we acquire the final soul of a giant. Time to go back to the crypt. Vendrick is yet another boss where staying behind him, specifically towards his left leg, makes you safe for his 2 melee attacks. Yeah, you heard that right. 2 attacks. Regular enemies have more attack combos than the King of Drangleic. However, he does hit like an absolute truck, and can potentially hit stun you if you're too far to his left when he does the double sweep attack. Guess what happened to me then? After running back and not auditioning to be in Fruit Ninja this time, he goes down. Now there are only 5 fights left in the base game. The Royal Rat Authority, Darklurker, and the 3 endgame bosses. I decided to save all 3 of the endgame bosses, since ending the video on Lud and Zolin is a bit like ending the day as a Venezuelan president. So you know what that means, time for Bubonic Plague Simulator. This is unironically the worst fight in the game. So bad that this is the point I ditched the Seldora set and equipped some high value armor pieces. The goal is to kill all these little rats while the big rat is spamming attacks that knock you down. Cool! Even better, the rats all inflict both toxic and petrification. The fight is pretty much won or lost in the first 15 seconds. If you fail to kill at least half the rats before the big one comes down, you may as well hold the L. but eventually I just kill all the rats early enough to heal up for the big rat. The 1v1 afterwards is a joke as usual. Just stand behind him, yada yada, he goes down. Man, I dread the day when I have to do this at level 1. Darklurker is the last boss before diving into the DLCs. To access him, you need to talk to Grendel at all 3 locations, join the Pilgrims of Dark Covenant, then do the 3 Dark Chasm of Old dungeons. These dungeons contain dangerous NPCs and ghosts that need to be cleared out. The Havel NPC in particular is a beast. This dude took 30 life gems to take down during the last dungeon. Not exaggerating, 30. Trying to use the Mailbreaker to kill heavy poison enemies is almost as hard as asking out a girl. Almost. Although it's rough, it is doable at least, and after a while I clear all 3 dungeons and reach the boss. This is one of the better bosses in the game, and definitely challenging. Phase 1 lets you practice all the magic and sword attacks, but in Phase 2 it summons a clone of itself that shares HP, but otherwise acts independently of the original. So you need to get used to dodging 2 entirely separate attacks, prioritizing which one to dodge first based on animation speed. The best way to do this is to keep them both in frame and wait for one to do the laser attack, which is so slow that the other Darklurker tends to be vulnerable. All in all, not too bad. After a while, the Darklurker eventually goes... Wait, what? Dude actually killed me 1 second before the fight was over because the fireball and sword comboed together. Awesome! And you know what that means? Time to go through the last abyssal dungeon again with Havel again! Dark Souls 2 is the gift that keeps on giving. After that debacle, we fight Darklurker once more, and this time, for real, it goes down. Time for the DLCs, generally the best content in the game. I resolved to tackle them in their original order, starting with the Sunken King. After collecting all the various keys throughout the world, I'm ready to start. After zoning into Shulva, I use the movable platforms to make my way to the Dragon Sanctum, grabbing the Dragon Stone, going all the way down to the Imperfects, and opening the path to Dragon's Rest. Now, all 3 bosses in the DLC are available to fight. But first, I drop into the huge corrosive egg crawler room in the Dragon Sanctum and climb out. In this chest is the final ring for the run, the Flynn's Ring. Basically, if your max equip load is 60 or lower, it adds 50 damage to your attacks, with lower damage given as the max equip load increases. Since I never invested in Vitality, I actually have less than 60 max equip load, so I get the full boost of 50 damage, which applies to both my Mailbreakers. I decided to fight what's known as the Gang Squad first. Weirdly enough, despite the intimidating setup of 3 hyper-aggro NPCs, I find this one of the easier fights in the game. The environment is multi-leveled, which can be exploited. Jump down the left side and force the 2 melee NPCs to jump down well behind you, then run up the ramp and attack the ranged NPC Sarah until the other 2 catch up. Once Sarah is dead, kill the Grave Robber next since he tends to run ahead of Varg. Once he's down, the 1v1 with Varg consists of dodging the slow Dragon Tooth attacks and landing pokes or backstabs. And that's it, the Gang Squad goes down. The next boss is Alana, aka Ghetto Nishandra. She's essentially a basic hexer with a melee moveset. Get away from her when she does the obvious AoE hex attack, and otherwise stay behind her. Her special mechanic is that she summons one of 3 sets of enemies to harass the player. While the other summons can be easily killed, trying to murder Velstadt while you have a necromancer spamming spells at you in the back is an exercise in futility. So I decided to just finish off Alana. This can be done by baiting Velstadt to do his overhead swing attack with a humongous recovery time, and attacking Alana during that. After a few rounds of this, Alana goes down. Immediately after her is the final boss in the DLC, Sin. This is a standard flying dragon boss that will become more popular in later games, but the idea is simple. Watch him in the air and dodge depending on what attack he's doing. An aerial dive, a fireball attack, and a breath attack. It's generally a good idea to be right underneath him while he's in the air. His ground attacks are super basic. Just stay underneath him near his back legs if you can. There are 2 other gimmicks. He spews easily avoidable toxic mist, and attacking him with melee weapons causes weapons to degrade more quickly. Overall, this fight is pretty good and not that tough. That's the end of Sin and of the Sunken King DLC. Next up is the Old Iron King DLC. Upon arriving in Broom Tower, I grabbed the 6 Smelter's Wedges, saving 4 of them for later. After descending the tower and grabbing the Smoldering Iron Scepter, I realize, oh crap, my weapons are still +6! Whoops. I literally just forgot to upgrade my weapons for the last third of the game. Well, that sure would have helped earlier. So I go back and take care of that, then I return to the tower. The first boss is the Blue Smelter Demon. located in his infamous cave full of obnoxious sorcerers, archers, and a big golem guarding the entrance. Whoever designed this final room must be the same cuck that made that hole in the ground. Anyways, after that we zone into the boss arena. This smelter is basically the same as his red cousin from earlier, just substitute magic damage instead of fire damage. So I won't talk strategy again. It's a bit oddly placed. By now you'd be a veteran of the game with the other smelter far behind you, so he's pretty easy. I guess that counterbalances the terrible run back. If only they always did that. After exiting the cave and descending to the basement of the tower, I shut down the 4 ashen idols outside the nearby boss arena and enter, pouring damage into him during his entrance animation. This is the Fume Knight, probably the best fight in the game. He combines a short sword with an ultra great sword to devastating effect. As a general rule of thumb, the short sword attacks are fast while the ultra great sword attacks are delayed in phase 1. This guy loves his heal punishes too. He will cross the whole arena and part the Ashen Sea just to slap you out of your healing. In phase 2, he ditches the short sword and starts to power up his ultra great sword. This augments his attacks to deal more damage, and he gets a couple new magic attacks, most infamously this sweep attack. Learning how to dodge through this is essential to victory. I find that a diagonal dodge works the best. After a well-fought engagement, he goes down on the first try. If you're ever struggling to end this fight, the best bet is to equip the Velstadt helm from Mifflin back in Majula, which makes the fight way faster. Trust me, it'll be over before you know it. After climbing back up the tower and running past all the strangely identical prowlers, I make it to Elon's armor, which allows entry to the memory of the old Iron King. This is essentially a long gauntlet filled with fire salamanders and Elon knights. The fire salamanders can be mostly avoided by fighting outside their line of sight, but the Elon knights, yep, as expected, they still see you from light years away. It's super fun to fight hordes of these guys and die just to do it all over again. After a couple attempts, I make it to the Sir Elon boss. For new players, this boss tends to feel really challenging. The katana attacks are fast and hard to read. Both dash forward attacks are also ridiculously tough to dodge. His heal punches are harsh as well, with barely any time to get a life gem off. Forget the Estus flask. By the time the animation finishes, you may as well be compost in the ground. He can even power up his weapon like Fume Knight. The worst part though is that if you happen to die, guess what? It's back to the card scalpers for you. This was my fate more times than I care to say. But here's the thing about this boss. Notice how he's holding the katana to his far right. That means logically his far left should be safe from most attacks. And thank the stars for From Software's insane commitment to detail, because this is actually true. Just try your best to stay to his left, and almost every attack, save the horizontal slash, will whiff. After that, he's toast. Well, that's a relief. Imagine if they tied a boss without such a huge weakness to a long run back. That would suck. On to the final DLC, the Ivory King. The first boss is Ava, who can be fought right away, but is nearly totally invisible unless the Eye of the Priestess item is found later in the level. Sounds fun, right? Turns out, I don't hate myself, so I decided to go get the item beforehand. After progressing through the bulk of Eliam Lois as in a normal run, I find the Eye of the Priestess. Now I can fight Ava without having war flashbacks of the Priscilla fight. The overall strategy is to dodge towards her to land behind her, then attack slowly, watching for that back punish. Whenever an AoE attack is coming, run out and wait for the hitboxes to fade. Overall, this fight is not too bad. Rather enjoyable, actually. After going up the stairs and talking to Alsana, the way to the Burnt Ivory King boss is open. However, like Ava, it is a poor idea to fight him right now. This is because there are 3 portals in the boss room that constantly summon charred Lois Knights. Think Elon Knights, but they cannot be backstabbed, cannot be staggered, and some have pyromancies. You'd have an easier time winning an argument with a Reddit mod. To remedy this, normal Lois Knights can enter the fight with the player, sacrificing themselves to destroy the portals at a 1-to-1 rate. The game gives 1 knight for free, but there are 3 others scattered around the zone to find, so I set out to find them. The routes for these 3 are pretty well known and not different in this run, so I'll just show me reaching all 3. With the Arctic Avengers assembled, I decide to start attempts on Ivory King. The best way to describe this guy is a magic-based Gwyn or Fume Knight. He has several of the same characteristics: a backstep attack, slash attacks, and a jumping attack. He also has a very hard to read grab with immense range. He has the power to produce ice-based AoEs around him as well. Finally, early on to the fight, he empowers his sword just like Fume Knight, causing even more damage. This fight is seriously tough. The extra knight can relieve the pressure a little bit, but he gets torn to shreds pretty quickly. And I do a pretty terrible job. I die 2 times, once right at the end. Back to the joy of killing hordes of unstaggerable enemies. Feels like I'm playing Shadow of the Erdtree again. In my eagerness though, I forgot that if you kill too many ads, the boss spawns early. So at one point I had to deal with ads and the boss. Yeah, don't do that. On the 3rd try, I finally clutch it up and kill the king, freeing his kingdom from his dismal fate and ending the final DLC. Oh wait, there is one more boss here. Ugh, do I have to do it? Fine, I guess I have no choice. Earlier, while finding the Loist Knights, I entered this cave with 2 Flexel sentries and found the Garrison Ward Key. I now return to this part of the rampart and use the key to open this door. Entering the coffin grants entry to the worst zone in the entire trilogy by a snowy mile, the Frigid Outskirts. Oh boy, where do I even begin? As you can see... Oh wait, you can't see! Like, what even is this? The gimmick is that a blizzard periodically destroys your vision. That's just great, isn't it? Then you need to navigate 3 enormous snowfields separated by safe zones. And what is between these safe zones? Snowy reindeer that constantly invade you, have Commander Gaius levels of hitbox finesse, cannot be staggered, and have lightning attacks. Splendid! The worst part though is that this is possibly the single longest runback in any Souls game. There is no bonfire here. The fastest I could do without seriously risking death is 5.5 minutes. Most of that is just running. Like dude, they must have been snorting some snow in designing this garbage. Oh well. After the Polar Express, we finally make it to the boss, Lud and Zolin. This fight is absolutely not what you want at the end of a massive runback. Each cat essentially has the moveset of Ava with some minor variations. Zolin does not come down until Lud is at around 40% HP. Then Zolin does a roar on himself at low HP that causes him to regenerate health and deal more damage for, let me check my notes. Oh, an entire minute! Hey devs, you think that's long enough? The obvious problem is that fighting 2 Avas at once is miserable. These guys will delete you faster than you can say Estus. And once they do, back to the Polar Express! Fantastic! So here's the most consequential DPS check in the game. Get Lud slightly above the HP threshold and wait for him to do an attack with a long animation, then tear into him. If you can do that, you're fine. If not, well, you'll have enough reindeer carcasses to power Jack Skellington's sleigh. My first attempt fell well short of the DPS check, and I got torn to shreds. My second attempt, though, did it just in the nick of time. The fight is far from over, though. Zolin is a menace, especially with his regen and damage roar. I literally cannot out-DPS the healing, so the fight is greatly prolonged. He even gets some meaty hits on me with the buff, and I narrowly avoid getting comboed. The buff does drop, though, giving me some time to kill him before he recasts it. After an agonizing battle, I finally give him the Harambe treatment. My goodness, the relief I feel after killing these guys never ceases to amaze me. With all the DLCs done, it's time to finish the game by fighting the 3 endgame bosses. The first is the Throne Watcher and Throne Defender duo. Ugh, another duo fight after that insanity? Well, it's not nearly as bad. For one, the runback is a 5th as long, but also, they don't always gang up on you. It's a miracle. I mean, sometimes they do, but at least you have some downtime. The gimmick is that they will resurrect each other if one is left alive for too long. So as soon as one is down, you want to zerg down the other as quickly as possible. All in all, this is like a quarter as difficult as the cat fight, but that's what happens when you have such a high level advantage, I guess. Next is Nashandra, the original final boss of the game. And I kid you not, all you need to do is kite her away from her curse pillars, and either fight her in melee dodging her simple scythe attacks, or bait her at range to use her laser charge ability, which is easily punishable. That's it. Wow. I'm convinced that is the biggest final boss letdown in the series. The true final boss is Aldea, Scholar of the First Sin. And for him, well, he teleports around, so just wait until he's not burning and hit him. When he is burning, he does an easily telegraphed and dodgeable attack, whether that's tree roots or fireballs. He can also warp on top of you for massive damage, which did come close to taking me out, but honestly, that was it. I was so underwhelmed I decided to see how much damage the big fireball did. Yikes, don't try that at home. It does hit pretty freaking hard. After that, I decided to kill him with no fanfare. He is better than Nashandra, but even with these weapons, the final bosses look like jokes. After that anticlimactic finish, the game's over, and this mailman takes his rightful place as the new CEO. In conclusion, I'll be honest, In Dark Souls 1, the Mailbreaker is an irredeemable pile of trash. But in Dark Souls 2, it would still be an irredeemable pile of trash, save for the fact that you can power stance it. That makes up for so many of the damage problems in the original game. The increased scaling helps a ton too. I still would not recommend this for people to use. I mean, after all, you still get terrible crowd control, low range, low poise damage, etc. But it is absolutely workable, and dare I say it, fun at times. Not very often, but it can be fun. And you know what? That's the most important thing. Well, thanks for watching everybody. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and see you next time. Peace.